I'm doing a how-to for the top-down sweater that I love to make, which is a Raglan style sweater. I did not just like come up with it, but I'm going to show you how I get it done. So first move is either a chain or a foundation chain. If you do a chain, go ahead and do 1 row of double crochet also, and you need to have a number of stitches that is divisible by 4, and it just needs to be able to like go around. Well, if you're not doing a cardigan and you're doing like a pullover, make sure it can fit around your head and that you're going to be comfortable. So mine is 80 based on my yarn, and you know that matters because if you use like really thick yarn, you probably won't be doing a chain of 80. You'll probably be doing something much smaller. So anyway, it needs to be divisible by 4. 80 divided by 4 is 20. If you're not a math girly, I get it. This part might hurt your head, but it's important. Okay, ignore this line. Take 1, all right? I'm with my cute paper, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a visual. So for me, I'm doing a cardigan. So pretend this is like the front opening. This is like a bird's eye view. Like I'm looking down at the neck of the sweater. And it is just going to be a square. It's just a drawing, just a visual. It doesn't have to be like perfect. And this is 80 total because like I said, I did a foundation chain of 80. We need an increase in each of these. And so this is going to be the front of the sweater, the back of the sweater, and then the 2 armholes. So this is the shoulder, this is the back, this is the front, and it's open because it's going to be a cardigan. So now each of these circles is one of the stitches in your chain. So we're not going to consider those when we consider how many are going in these spots. So 80 minus the 4 that we circled is 76. So that is your number. It's still divisible by 4, no worries. 76 divided by 4, sorry about my handwriting, but whatever, is, this is just how I do division, 19. So we would have 19 on each of these sides if we wanted all of them to be the exact same. Personally, the front and the back for me are going to be longer than the shoulders. So then how I figure out how long or how wide I want the front and the back to be, I just take a tape measure, and then where the circles were in that picture, there's going to be kind of like a line there to be where, like a baseball t-shirt line, to be where the seam is. So I want that. I'm making like an extra large because this is for Gunner. So I want that to be like 11 inches, 11 or 12 inches. So then I'm going to take this and figure out how many stitches. I'm going to kind of pull it as I go because I want to take into account blocking. How many stitches makes 11 inches? So for me, that 11 inches is 26 stitches. And I literally just held this up to the tape measure, stretched it, and then counted it. So when we come back to here, that 26 where that plays in is that's going to be this side and this side. So if I draw a new square, this is the opening in the front. These are going to be even. Ignore my drawing. So 26 here and 26 here. It's going to be open in the front, so that really means 13 and 13 because 26 divided by 2 is 13. And we are not slip stitching here, so it's going to be open. So 26, 26, 26 times 2, because we have 2 of them, is 52. Our total, 76 minus 52, 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So that is the side number, 12, 12. So if you were to do 12 plus 13 plus 13 plus 12 plus 26, you are going to get 6, 8, 11, 14, 16, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 76, which is that same number that we had over here. And then if you really want to make sure it matches up, just do plus 4. And you have 80. That 4, again, is these corners where we're going to increase to give the sweater some shape. So my numbers end up being 13, an increase, 12, an increase, 26, an increase, 12, an increase, 13 to the end. And then you turn your work and work back this way. So then when we're translating that to our yarn, this is 80. So from the beginning or the end, we'll count 13 and then mark the 14. So here we have 13 stitches and then a stitch marker in the 14th. Now from this stitch marker, now you count 12 and put another stitch marker in the 13th from this stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here's the 13th. Stitch marker is going to go right in there because that's going to be where another increase comes in. Now from this one, this is the back of the sweater because this is the front. So from this stitch marker, we're going to count 26 and then put a stitch marker in the 27th. And then from this one, we're counting 12 again and putting the stitch marker in 13th from this stitch marker. And then since we put that one in, we have all 4 of our corners. And then from here to the end should be 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then everything is even. So this is the neck of your sweater. So I know it's kind of stressful to watch this long of a video just with how to start. But then, just so you know, from here, you do a double crochet in every stitch. And then in the stitch with the stitch marker in it, you're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in that stitch. Then double crochet in every stitch until you get to the next stitch marker. Same thing. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in this stitch. And then when we come back around, the increase will be in the chain spaces, but that'll be a lot easier to see in the next part moving forward. So again, here's all your scary math. This is the starting point, the ending point, all of our numbers that add up to our total stitches. 4 of these stitches are our increases. Good to go. Sweaters take me a while, so I'm going to post the rest of this as fast as I can, but I figured it was best to get you guys started, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so if you watched the last video, you know that I have a chain of 80, and then I have stitch markers everywhere that I'm going to increase. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pause to explain stuff. So, at the end of your foundation chain or first row of double crochet, we're chaining 2 because we're continuing with double crochet, turning our work, and then instead of just doing a double crochet into this stitch, I kind of want straighter edges. So I'm going to pick up the first chain we made, so the second one from the hook, and that's going to count as our yarn over. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then you have 3 loops on your hook and finish your double crochet like normal. And this will make it a little bit easier to do a border on our cardigan later. And then continue your double crochets like normal until you get to your first increase. Stitch marker if you marked your stitches. Once you get to the stitch with the stitch marker, I took mine out. But if you're following my same numbers, like I have 13 here, so this is the 14th stitch. I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet into the same stitch again. And that is what you're going to do in every space with a chain, with a stitch marker, sorry. And then if you want to, so this is where every stitch marker is. And if you want to, you can put the stitch marker back around this chain space. I'm not going to, just because to me it's obvious when it comes up. And then this chain space is where these increases are going to be later. So anyway though, for this first row, double crochet until you meet this next stitch marker. All right, I took the stitch marker out, but just as a reminder, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into that stitch marker stitch, and then you can put it there if you want to. I'm not going to. So do that for the rest, and then I'll pick back up at the end. We're at the end of the first row that has the increases in it. And so we are going to go into this first stitch because this chain 2 at the beginning of my foundation row does not count as a stitch. We're going to just cover that up like when we do ribbing. So I'm going to double crochet into the last stitch and then chain 2 like normal. Turn your work. Insert your hook into the second chain from the hook, but the first from the project. And then into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, complete your double crochet, and keep going until you get to the increase. So I am at the increase. You can see these 2 double crochets in this one stitch. And I double crocheted into the double crochet here. Now I'm going to add a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet around that chain we did in the last row. So we're just continuing this increase, and then you double crochet into the double crochet of the increase in the row before, and then you go all the way until you get to the next increase, then all the way until you get to the next one, all the way till you get to the end. Then you turn your work like we've been doing, and you continue this row repeat until it kind of reaches a point where you want it to make armholes. And after a few more rows, I'm about to show you what that looks like. So here's how it's looking with 6 rows of double crochet. You can kind of see the holes from the increases here. And so that's coming down to make an arm. I'm going to switch to half double for 2 rows. So I'm going to do 6 rows of double crochet, 2 rows of half double, and then repeat that. Once you get to the point where these points could be like where the arm sleeve starts, it changes a little bit. I've done 20 rows, and so then on this 21st row, do double crochet all the way into the first increase. To make the armhole, once you get to the chain space, just put 1 stitch in the chain space, and then you're going to chain the same number of stitches that were in the shoulder section at the beginning. So for me, that is 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then make sure it stays straight. And then you're going to go to the next increase. So past this whole shoulder section to here. And you're going to do 1 stitch into that chain space. So from this chain, yarn over, double crochet, and then continue like normal across the back section. And then now, when you come back around, you're going to be crocheting onto this chain instead of here. And so this is our armhole. Once you go across the back, we're back at an increase, 1 stitch, chain the same number. For me, it's 12. Okay, and then stretch across the shoulder to the next increase, and 1 stitch in that increase, and we're now done with increases on the sweater. Keep going until you get to the end of that row. Once you turn your work and come back around, this is around where we would have been increasing, but instead we're just going to continue working the chain. So put a double crochet into every chain going across, and then once you get to the last chain, just continue your double crochets across the row with no increases. You've stopped the increases and added this, so now you're just going back and forth until you like the length. So at this point, you should be able to like see it as a sweater now. Like it's kind of taking its shape. And now you're just working in like a straight line pretty much until you want to stop. So then the next one will be sleeves, and then we'll do a collar and ribbing. And I think I'm putting a zipper on this. So the zipper and, if not a zipper, buttons. I am personally really happy with how it's coming out. I think it'll look great. Sleeve, and then you're gonna want to find like where the armpit is. Where the armpit is, like halfway, and then we're gonna attach our yarn into that chain that we made. Okay, so this is what you should be looking at. So up here is the shoulder. This is underneath your arm, and then it doesn't really matter. I just kind of, you know, want to go semi in the middle. And how I'm going to attach my yarn is inserting my hook into that chain. And I'm going to take the end of my yarn, leave a pretty long tail, just personally, because I'm going to sew this in later to keep it in place. And then chain 2, because we're going to start with double crochet. I am not going to count this as a stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and double crochet into the same chain that I just attached to, I guess. Once you get to the end of the chain, you're gonna have a double crochet that you need to work into from the side before you get to the stitches that are easy to see. So just put double crochets wherever you think looks best. I personally am gonna put one in this chain. And then I'm gonna put one into the stitch so that I pick up a couple loops, hopefully. Okay, happy with that. And then this is our first like easy to see stitch, but I don't wanna risk a gap. So I'm just gonna put another one into this stitch. Hold on, yep, into this stitch. And then now my stitches are super easy to see. So do that same thing when you get around to the other side where that same thing happens. Okay, I figured I would show you this part on the other side. So I'm doing the same thing, 2 stitches into that. Well, I'm putting 2 stitches into this double crochet from the side. Okay, and then from here, we're going into this loop. And now you're back at the chain. Okay, I'm on the last chain. I'm gonna put a double crochet in there. And then slip stitch to the first stitch of the row. So you're pulling through both the stitch and the loop. Chain 2. And turn the whole piece towards you. So you're turning your work. Once you turn, do a double crochet into this first stitch. And then do double crochet all the way around until you get back to the end. Once you get to the end of the row, go ahead and do that last stitch. And then we're gonna slip stitch into the first like we did before. And then this is the row that you do until you're happy with the sleeve length. So you can see that the sleeve is becoming a sleeve, and then I'm just gonna go until I'm happy with the length. I'm not gonna do increases. Nope, definitely wouldn't do that. I'm not gonna do decreases because I like the look of kind of a boxy sleeve with just a cuff on the end. So do that for both sleeves, and then I'll come back and do the ribbing and the cuffs. We're moving on to the cuffs of the sweater. I'm moving on from this color to this color. You totally don't have to. And I'm just also refreshing the green in my hair, so ignore this. Okay, first I'm gonna show you a little color change. So this is the last row that we did in this color right before I did a slip stitch into this stitch. So this is the last stitch of this row, and we're gonna cut the yarn like right before that stitch, which can like kind of feel wrong, but trust me. Well, maybe watch me do this first. All right, so you cut the yarn there, and then take your hook out and undo. I always hold the next stitch by putting my hook back in. Undo this stitch so you know that this is the amount of yarn that the next stitch is going to take. and then do your magic knot now. So I'm tying my new color to my old color, and then my old color to my new color, with just like one super simple little, okay, super simple knot, and then just pull them both so that the knots meet, and then trim these little ends off as close to the knot as you can get. And now we're just going to keep going like normal. So redo this last double crochet that we did. And I'm just struggling here because of that little knot that's in the yarn. I'm going to pull it tight, slip knot, not slip knot, slip stitch into the first stitch of that row. And now we're on to the next color. Okay, so anyway, so from here, I'm going to do 2 rows in this color that just go around the cuff, double crochet in every stitch. If you're not switching colors or you're ready to move on to the cuff, just skip this part. So again, I'm going to do 2 rows in the new color of double crochet. Once you're at the end of the last row before you want the actual cuff to start, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We are 2 minutes into this, longer, and I'm just now starting the cuff. Okay, whatever. Slip stitch, chain 1. We're switching to half double crochet. Turn your work. And so now we are going to do a half double crochet in the first stitch. In the next 2 stitches, we're going to decrease. So we're going to yarn over, insert into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, insert hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now you have 4 loops. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4. And then that's a decrease. And then we're going to repeat those 2 stitches until we get to the end. So 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, and then decrease in the next 2. Pull through all 4. And then just keep repeating that until we get back here. At the end of that row, it doesn't really matter what you end with. Like I ended with just 1 half double. That's fine. We're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, chain 1, and turn the sleeve. And then I personally am going to do that same row repeat. So I'm going to do a half double in the first stitch, and then decrease in the next 2. And keep doing that. But if you're happy with how wide your cuff was after 1 of the row repeat, oh my goodness, then you can skip ahead. But if not, do it again. So after that row repeat 2 times, so I have 2 rows of double crochet and then 2 rows of half double crochet, 1 half, and then a decrease, 1 half decrease. And so now I did the slip stitch. No, I didn't. I'm going to do the slip stitch. And then turn my sleeve. And now I am choosing, you can do any stitch you want here. Like you can do some sort of ribbing. I'm just going to do half double crochets in every stitch all the way around. Probably, I'm going to start with 3 rows and see how it looks. So I'm just going to start with half doubles in this first stitch. Instead of decreasing, I'm just continuing on with 1 stitch in every previous stitch all the way around. So here's how it's looking at that point. I'm going to do another 3 rows so that I can roll the cuff a little bit. But this is the point where it's like totally up to you, and this is personal preference. So when I try this on, I like the way it looks, but I want to be able to roll the cuff once. So I'll have a total of 6 rows of just half double crochet. Okay, when you're done with however many rows you want to do, chain 1, cut your yarn and pull through. You're going to weave that in either now or later, whatever works. And then for me, my cuff is going to look like that. because I like it rolled one time. So there you go. Do it on the other side. Congrats on your cuffs. Hope you love them. If not, hope you find cuffs that you love. Next is going to be the collar for sure, and maybe some other stuff. Whatever it is, at least the collar. All right, we are moving right along. Yay! In this one, we're doing a collar. Mine's going to have like a collared shirt collar, you know? Like a collar, not just ribbing. So if you don't want that, hopefully you can find a video for something else. I'm going to put a collar on here. So I don't know if this is something that people do, but I do it all the time. So here is the end of the yarn that's like coming off of the collar of the sweater right now. You know, this is like where we started the sweater. I'm going to tie my yarn onto this end and then continue working with this as my working yarn, because all a collar is back and forth, whatever stitch you want, however many rows you want, like no increases, no anything. So I'm going to do double crochet back and forth, and that's how I'm going to weave this end in. I'm going to use it. Also, this is what I have left over from the whole sweater, so I'm just hoping that this is at least 5 rows of double crochet. If not, we'll figure it out. This is also very exciting for me because I get to use my yarn bowl. I haven't named her yet, so suggestions welcome. So to get started from here, like I tied my yarn, cut the ends. So to get started, I'm going to put my hook into the first stitch of that row. So this is like the first row of the project, like the first row of the neck. I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and then chain 2. And now we are basically going back and forth in double crochet rows like normal, like we did down here. So for this first stitch of the row, insert your hook into the first chain from the project, second from your hook, yarn over. Actually, no, sorry, don't yarn over. Stay here. Put your hook into that same first stitch, yarn over, pull through, complete your double crochet like normal. And that is your first stitch. And then just work 1 into every stitch all the way across. Depending on how you started your project, this is either gonna like be a foundation chain or just a regular chain. Not a foundation chain or a regular chain. Foundation stitch or a regular chain. So for me, mine kind of feel like going into actual stitches. For you, it might be chains. Basically, I'm trying to say don't worry if it doesn't look exactly like mine does. You're probably doing great. Once you get to the end of the row, you just keep going by chaining 2, turning your work. And then insert your hook into the second chain from your hook, and then insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, complete like a normal double crochet, and continue with double crochets. So from here, you're just doing rows back and forth, however many times you want until the collar is the size that you like. So I did get 5 rows. I had to switch to half double with the last row, but that's okay. This is all the yarn that I have left. Anyway, here we are. Yay, and the cuffs, and the collar. Okay, now I'm gonna do the ribbing. It's actually not really gonna be ribbing, more like a border. So at this point, we have the whole sweater and a collar, if you did one. And so for the border, you can either attach in the middle of the collar or the middle of the bottom. We'll just be working in like opposite directions, I guess, but it's like pretty much the same. You can attach to either one. I'm gonna attach to the like bottom of the sweater. Just, if you want to count stitches, you can. I'm just gonna fold my sweater in half and use this stitch. And that's good enough for me. Okay, so once you decide, you're just going to attach your border yarn. I'm going back to my cuff color to your project. I do it by leaving a long tail so I can weave it in later. And then do as many chains as you need to work whatever stitch you choose. Like I'm going to do half double crochets on my border. So I'm just going to chain 1. And then I'm going to yarn over and half double crochet into that same stitch. And then half double crochet into every stitch as you go. I always go over the tail like 3 or 4 times. But then I am still going to leave it so that I can make it more secure later. So I'm just going to ignore that. And then half double crochet all the way down until you get to the end of the bottom. So at the end of the row, once you're doing that last half double crochet into the last stitch of the row, we're going to chain 1. And now we're going to turn our work 90 degrees. And now we are working up this side, which is for me the front. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so here's where I started in the middle of the back. So the back of the collar is up here. And then I did half double crochets all the way around. There goes the arm until I'm at the front. So like there's the collar. Here's where I'm working right now. And now I'm going to come up this way. Good tip. I always think that the border looks the best if the first row that you do, you are working with the outside of the project facing you, if that makes sense. So like I was working this way and this is the outside of the sweater. So this I would consider the wrong side because I'm only going to have 3 rows here. So this side of the stitch tends to look nicer. So if you have 3, you want 2 out of the 3 to look like this. So you should do 1 and then it'll be 2 and then it'll be 3. So just a little side note. Anyway, once you do that chain 1, we're turning that 90 degrees. And then we're just going to do another half double crochet into that same stitch to create a corner. And then now we are going to keep working up. So for me, this is a double crochet row. And then I have 2 half doubles. And then 6 doubles. And then 2 half doubles. Because I just followed that pattern all the way. And then this is where I want it to end. So for the rows that are half double, for the rows that are double crochet, they are 2 stitches wide when we're working up them because, you know, they're 2 stitches tall. So it'll take 2 stitches to cover them. So we're going to put 2 half double crochets into the double crochets and 1 in the half double crochets. Hopefully that makes sense. But that should get you an even number of stitches around both sides. And on this, we are working all the way up to the end of the top of the collar. When you get to your next turning point, it should be the collar. So the last row of my collar, looking at it like this, is a half double crochet. So it only needs 1 stitch, and we're going to make it in the top of that stitch so that it's going into the first stitch once we turn it. But then before you turn it, you chain 1, turn, half double crochet into that same stitch, and then half double all the way across. Once you get to the other end of the collar, turn this corner like we've been doing, and then here, just be consistent with whatever you did last time. So last time we were working up the front, now we're working down the front, and just do your same stitch pattern as you did before. So for me, it'll be 2 single crochets in every double and 1 in every half double. And then turn the next corner too, and then work all the way across, and we're gonna slip stitch into our first stitch, which is here. So I'll meet you back here. So this is where we are. And you could be done here just with this 1 row of border. But I'm going to put buttons on this, I decided, instead of a zipper. But I did talk for way too long, so I have to do another part with the buttons. But I will do that like right now. So the next part will be buttonholes and buttons. And then I guess that'll be it. Okay, so where I left off, I did the first row of the border all the way around the sweater. So now I'm doing 2 more rows, and this one we're putting in buttonholes. So I'm gonna explain like how I picked where my buttons go. Here's the front of the sweater. So when it's on, I want the buttonholes to be on the left side, which is this side, and then the buttons to be on the right side. So since I did the 6 rows of double crochet, 2 rows of half double, 6 rows of double, 2 rows of half double, I just decided that my buttons are going to go in every 2 rows of half double in the first row from the top. So like the top row of it. So like this stitch marker is in the stitch that's in the row that I want it to be in. But if you didn't do that, you can always go by number of rows or number of stitches really on the edge here. So from the bottom, I put stitch markers in the first spot where I want a button and buttonhole in this row of half double crochets. And then I end up counting 14 up and put a stitch marker in the 14th. And then another 14, another stitch marker in the 14th, all the way up. But then I do have 2 less in between the top and this one. I don't really know why. I just kind of chose to. And I don't have a row of half double up here because this is the top of the project and then the collar. So I marked both sides, but the left side, or I guess the right, if you choose to do it on that side, is going to be the only side where the stitch markers like are affecting what we're doing. The side with the buttons is more so for you to see later so that you know exactly where to sew them on. Okay, so to actually make the row with the buttonholes, at the end of the first row of the border, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And we are going to do half double crochets in every stitch. Right now we're just on the bottom of the sweater again. So I will meet you back at this first corner. Once you get to the corner, you're going to finish your row doing half double. So I have 2 left. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a half double here and a half double in this stitch. And then the next is the chain 1 that we did in the last row. So in that chain 1 space, we're going to put a half double, chain 1, half double, all in that chain 1 space. And now that continued our corner. So now we are turning and putting a half double in every stitch going up. For me, this side of the front that we're working on now, this is where my buttons are going to go. I'm basically just going to like crochet over the stitch markers and ignore them because that is just going to tell me later that I need to sew a button on right there, because on the other side there will be a buttonhole. And so just keep going all the way down until you get to this corner in the collar. When you get to the next corner, do the same thing. So I'm again going to do these last 2 stitches and then put 1 half double crochet, chain 1, another half double crochet, all into that chain space. And then that'll turn, and now you're on your collar. So we're putting a half double crochet in every stitch all the way across. Oh, and then I will meet you at the next corner. Do the same thing in this corner that we've been doing. And now we are working on the side with the buttonholes. So the difference here is that instead of just crocheting over the stitch marker, we're going to do a chain above it. So for now, I'm just going to do half doubles until I get to a stitch marker. Okay, so it's just as simple as it sounds. So the stitch before the stitch marker is a half double, and then we're going to chain 1, skip the stitch marker, and half double into the stitch after that. And then you just keep going with stitches all the way down until you get to the next stitch marker, and then do that for every single one. Okay, so I did the slip stitch at the end of that second row. I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and then row 3 is basically the same as row 2, but now we are switching to single crochet, or at least I am. Do whatever you want. So I'm going to just start here and then do single crochets in every stitch. So keep going with that, and then for me, just the way that my crochet worked out and where I put my buttonholes, I'm going to turn the corner like we have been, and then I'm going to meet you back at this buttonhole. So the buttonholes are pretty simple. So I turn the corner like I did the last row, just with single crochets instead of half double. And now I've put a single crochet in every stitch until the chain that we did in the last row. And I'm just going to put a single crochet around that chain. And then single crochet into the next stitch. And every stitch moving forward until the next buttonhole, and then you just do the same thing, and now you have buttonholes. So repeat that for every chain that we made, and then do single crochets all the way around until you get back to the first stitch of that row. Okay, once you're done with that row, you're done. So now weave in all your ends. Okay, we're done. Yay, yay, yay. Anyway, okay, so this is the side that I have the buttonholes, and then on mine, I just still have the stitch markers where the buttons are gonna go. I'm going to steam block, so I'm gonna block before I put buttons on. If you're not gonna block, skip that and just do the buttons. If you're gonna wet block, go ahead and do that. Whatever you're gonna do, go ahead and do that. I'm gonna steam mine. I do also love a good before and after, so here it is before. Oh my goodness. Okay, remember that this is not for me. This is for my husband, who is a foot taller than me. So picture it fitting. Okay, last thing is the buttons. To sew on the buttons, I'm just going with the stitch markers. And when I'm looking at it, I'm going to sew my button to the stitch right above the stitch marker in each spot. I picked out these buttons. They kind of look like cookies. And then I sew them on with sewing thread. You can do whatever you want. I've tried everything. I always find that just treating it like fabric and sewing these on with sewing thread is the most secure. If you want to do something else, that is cool. All right. Congrats on your Raglan sweater, you guys. How exciting. We got some buttons going on now. Sweater is complete. My last button goes... Okay. That's the whole series. Love that for us.